In this video I want to go through question 4 of the Leaving Cert composition paper. This is the first of the 3 harmony questions. So you've got to do one melody question, which is one of question 1, 2 or 3, and you've got to do one harmony question, which is question 4, 5 or 6. The harmony question is worth more, it's worth 60 marks, whereas the melody is only worth 40 marks. So it's quite important that we go through the harmony questions. This is question 4 if you opt to do it, and in this particular question what you're given is this entire first 4 bars, so you're given all of this, and then after that you're given the chords. So you're given the chords right up until the end, etc. And what you have to do is you have to write an answer to these first 4 bars, and it has to be melody and bass line for the entire thing. This one is from the 2015 paper, question 4, and I've just gone through it, and I'm going to try and break this question down now and just talk about some of the different things that you're going to need to know, some of the different things you're going to need to do in this particular question. So to begin with, we'll look at the same things we looked at when we did our melody questions. We want to know what key we're in, so we can ascertain from the fact that we've got 4 sharps in the key signature and we start on an E chord, that we're in the key of E major. So I'm just going to write that over here so that we know what we're doing. Okay, so we're in E major. Next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to look at the the first thing you're going to do is look at some of the cadence points. The cadence points come at the end of each 4 bars, the end of each phrase, and at those cadence points, those pick up a lot of marks. So for example, you've got your perfect cadence at the end, you've got this B7 going to an E chord. So for that you're going to really want to outline those notes. You're going to want to get in your T to Do in your in one of your parts, and you're going to want to resolve to your home chord there at the end. You're going to also want to do it at the other cadence points. So like here where you've got E/B going to B, you're going to want to fill that in. Try and do your cadence points first is always an important thing to do. The next thing you're going to really want to do is look at what they've given you already. So for example, if you want to look at, let's just take the bass line for a moment first. So bass line tends to use quite a lot of this movement. You've got a dotted crotchet quaver thing going on. You've got it at the beginning of 3 of the 4 bars they've given you. So we're probably going to use quite a lot of dotted crotchet quaver movement here. And as you can see, I've done that. If you go down and look at some of the bars I've written, we've got a dotted crotchet quaver, got another one, we've got loads of them all over the place. So you want to try and reuse the rhythms they've given you. They've also got quite a lot of just plain old crotchet movements. You got it just here, and as you can see, I've done the same. Lots and lots of plain crotchet movement. Okay. Loads of it there. So you want to really reuse what they've given you. It's not just the rhythm, and it's not just the bass part either. You want to reuse the melody parts quite a lot as well. So if you look at the melody parts, they've got a lot of this 4 quavers followed by 2 crotchets. 4 quavers followed by 2 crotchets. They've got it. So I've got it here again. 4 quavers, 2 crotchets, or even just 4 quavers and then something different. I've got here 4 quavers followed by a dotted crotchet quaver. So you want to reuse the ideas they've given you. That's a really, really important point. So I'm just going to write that down. I'm going to keep all my points in orange here. So reuse ideas. Reuse the ideas they've given you. That's one really, really important point. Another really important thing is, and it's just something to be aware of because it's actually it's something you can do plainly right or wrong, which there's not too much of here. So if we look at when we've got these slash chords, these chords where it's E/G sharp or B/D sharp, those are called inversions. And what that means is the letter that comes after the sharp, the letter that comes after the slash, so the G sharp in this case or the D sharp in this case, you want that to be in the left hand, you want it to be in the bass part. So as you can see here, they've done it in the opening. When they've got E/G sharp, they've got the G sharp in the bass. When they've got B/D sharp, they've got the D sharp in the bass. E/G sharp, they've got the G sharp in the bass again. And as you can see, if you look at my one, I've done that anytime I've been given a sharp chord. I was given B/D sharp here, I've got the sharp in the bass, the D sharp. I was given A/C sharp, I've got the C sharp in the bass. I've been given E/B, I've got the B in the bass. So that's really important. Whenever you got inversions, slash chords, you want to have the letter that comes after the slash in the left hand, in the bass. So it's going to put that down as our second point. Inversions, what would you write? After slash in left hand. Just right. after slash in left hand. The I suppose almost the opposite of that then is what to do when you're given a seventh chord. So for example, you won't get too many of them, but we have got one here. We've got a B7. When you've got a seventh chord, you want the seventh note of that chord to be in the right hand. So if we were to write out the scale of E major, because we're in the key of E major, it's going to write out E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, D sharp, and then we're back to E, the octave. So if we were to figure out the notes of B7, for example, we would have number 1 is B, then we'll just write them out. We're going to start on B and we're going to count up the scales. So 4, we can skip that E. 5, 6, 7. So the notes to make up a B7 chord are going to be the first note, so that's B, the third, which is D sharp, the fifth, which is F sharp, and the seventh, which is A, all the odd numbers. So a B7 chord is made up of the notes B, D sharp, F sharp, and A. We want to have the seventh, which as we can see is A, we want to have that in the right hand. So just like the inversions, the letter after the slash was in the left hand, we want to have the seventh in the right hand. And as you can see, I've done that. I've got an A in the right hand here, accented right on the main beat where that B7 happens. So that's our third point. You want to have your seventh chords, sevenths in the right hand. So it's going to be a 3. So sevenths in right hand. Okay, so you want to reuse the ideas they've given you, the rhythms, the any little melodic fragments they've got. You want to have your inversions. When you've come to inversions, you want to have the note after the slash in the left hand. When you come to sevenths, you want to have the seventh in the right hand. Next thing I want to talk to you about is the whole idea of movement. If you've got movement in the right hand, then you want to have less movement in the left hand. For example, you can see they've got a lot of quaver movement here. We've got like quaver movement, let me just get a new color. We've got quaver movement here, we've got quaver movement here, we've got it here, we've got it all over the place. But you never see, at no point do I have quaver movement in both the right and the left hand. So what I mean is, if you have movement in the right hand, you don't want it in the left hand, and vice versa. Whenever I've got some quaver movement in the right hand, I've got steady crotchets or dotted crotchet quaver in the left hand. It's whenever I've got it, if I've got some quavers in the left hand here, I've held a dotted crotchet in the right hand. So when you've got long notes in the right hand, you want to have short notes in the left hand. When you've got short notes in the right hand, you want to have long notes in the left hand. That's a common thing. It just creates a bit of contrast, and it makes sure that there's always movement going on in some hand, but the two hands are not getting in the way of each other. In this particular question, there's not actually too many places where that really stands out, because I mean it's nearly all just crotchet or dotted crotchet quaver and quaver movement. There are other questions where you will have a long held note in the left hand and lots of movement in the right hand. Then you've got a long held note in the right hand and lots of movement in the left. It's not too obvious in this question, but it is something to look out for. So you want to have contrasting movement, we'll call it. We want different amounts of movement in each hand. So contrasting movement between the two different hands. Okay. Those are some of the main things. There's another thing that we can really look out for. If possible, and there's not too much of it in this, again it's one of those examples where it's not too obvious, but it is good to have some contrary motion. What contrary motion means is if you've got, say, the right hand coming down the way, so as you can see in bar 6 here, I've got the right hand is all coming down. It's good to have the left hand going up. You can see I've got the left hand all going up here. And likewise, the opposite of that. If you've got, let's see if I can find a good example of it here. There are not too many, but if you've, as you can see here, if you've got the right hand going down, you want the left hand to be coming up. It just sounds nicer if you've got one hand moving in one direction and one moving in the same direction. It can still work. I mean, I've got it in different places, but generally it avoids a lot of circumstances where things can go wrong. If you've got the two hands moving in the same direction, certain things can happen where they just don't work together. If you've got them contrary motion, you're avoiding a lot of potential problems. So where possible, if there's an opportunity to use contrary motion, do it. And it also sounds good, and the fact that you've even got it in there kind of shows that you know what you're doing. So just, if possible, use some contrary motion between the right and the left hand. So those are some of the main things. The bass line, generally, it should just really outline the chords. Let's just talk through the bass line a little bit here. And the bass line should outline the chords. So you've got E slash G sharp, you've got an E note here, followed by another E note, then you've got a G sharp, and it goes back to an E because E is a note of the chord of E slash G sharp, so that's okay. B slash D sharp, you've got your D sharp, and then it goes down to a B. E goes E, G sharp. So essentially the bass line is going to outline the notes of the chord, and I've done the same. You can look at it at any point. You've got an A note, for example, just bar 10. It goes A, C sharp, E, A. Those are the exact notes of the chord A. When we've got C sharp minor followed by A slash C sharp, it starts with C sharp minor. Then it goes to an E note, which is one of the notes of the chord of C sharp minor. Then it goes to C sharp for the A slash C sharp, followed by an A note, which is a note of that chord. So the bass line really just outlines the chord. It does so in the rhythms that they've given you in the opening, and follows, tries to move in motion that suits the right hand, in contrasting degrees of movement and in contrary motion where possible. So that's the main thing about the left hand. The right hand, you still want to have a good melody, just like when you wrote your melodies for your melody writing questions. As much as possible, you want to have a nice melody. You still want to get your T to Do at the end, if possible. We've actually got that on the left hand here, but we've got still, it ends on Do just here. You want to have the notes of the right hand still mainly should outline notes of the chord on the strong beats. So for example, if we look at bar 10 again, we've got an A chord. On the strong beats, we've got C sharp, A, and A again. All notes of the chord of A. And everything else in between is just passing notes. We've got a little B passing note here. We've got a G sharp lower auxiliary note here. We could do the same in just about any bar. In this bar, in bar 6, where we've got a B going to an E chord, our very first note is on a D sharp, which is the note of the chord of B. Then on the next strong beat, we've got a B. Then on the strong beat of E, we've got a G sharp, which is a note of the E chord. Then we've got an E, which is another note of the E chord. So again, your right hand, your melody, on the strong beats, you're just outlining whatever chords are written above, and everything in between is really just passing notes and auxiliary notes for each of those. So those are the main things to really look out for when you're doing your, if you're doing question 4. You want to reuse the ideas they've given you as much as possible. You want to reuse all of these. Your inversions, you want to have the letter that comes after the slash to appear in the left hand. Your sevenths, any seventh chords you get, you want them to be in the right hand. You want to have contrasting amounts of movement. So if you've got movement in the right hand, you want to have long notes in the left hand. If you've got lots of movement in the left hand, you want to have long notes in the right. You want to have contrary motion as much as possible. If the left hand is moving down the way, you want the right hand moving up. If you've got the right hand moving down the way, you want the left hand moving up. And then just really pay attention to your bass line and your notes of the chord. You want to have your bass line really outlining the root notes of the chord. So that means if it's E, you want an E note. If it's an A, you want an A note. If it's a B, you want a B note. And if the only time you don't have the root of the chord in the left hand is if you got that slash. That will tell you to put a different note of the chord in the left hand. On weaker beats, so for example where they've got the E here, on the weaker beat you've got a G sharp, so that's allowed. You can have another note of the chord on a weaker beat, that's fine, but just on the main beats, the really strong beats, like beats 1 and 3 in 4/4 time, you want to have the root note of the chord. As for the melody, like I said before, really just outline notes of the chords on those strong beats, and everything else in between is just passing notes and auxiliary notes. So those are the main things to look out for in question 4. You'll be given your chord progression, you just have to write your bass line and melody, and really watch out for those cadence points, and that's about it. I hope that's been helpful. I'm just going to quickly switch over and play this melody in a different program for you so that you can hear what it sounds like. So give me a second with that. Okay.